Hey, it's Kyle from federalprisontips.com, Federal Prison Tips on Instagram and TikTok, and the co-host of 10 Toes Podcast. I got a great guest today, Mr. Ross Mandell. Hey, Ross, thank you very much for joining me.
Kyle, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here today.
So I like to dive right into it. A lot of podcasts go and they do all this bullshit about like, hey, tell me where you grew up. I don't give a shit where you grew up. So, and that's, I don't mean that in an offensive way.
How
It's
you
just
really
who really cares?
What are you trying to say?
So you've been to federal prison?
Allegedly, no, I have been in federal prison. I've been to a few of them, as a matter of fact.
Tell me about your federal prison stays. Take me through
So
your
I
federal prison journey.
self-surrendered in September 2014.
To where?
FCI Miami.
All right. Okay. And then what?
They called it a low, but it was being
Run
run like a medium.
That's what we get every day. FCI Miami is run like a medium.
Controlled movements, one-way moves, three-man cells, all that. That's what I went through. There's nothing low about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And I was there for 33 months.
Okay.
I was eligible to leave after 3 months and go to the camp, but they kept sticking variables on me, management variables, and you're familiar with that.
I know. I'm familiar with management variables.
You put the V in variable, I got a feeling.
Exactly. What was the reason for your variables?
They could never give me an answer. I'm a high profile.
Right,
High
okay.
profile.
Were you central inmate monitoring? Were you a sim inmate?
Say it again?
Were you what they call a central inmate monitoring inmate? You know, with the where they went through your mail a little extra special and stuff
Yes,
like that.
they said to me that I was not allowed to be when they were what's the word? Putting me into prison, picking my spot, designating me. They said that I can't be within 50 miles of a city.
Of the city of Miami?
Of any city.
Of any city?
Right, because I was very high profile. I've been in a lot of newspapers. I've been on television, and for some reason they looked at me as some sort of a press risk. And in fact, Walter Pavlo is a white-collar crime reporter for Forbes who goes and visits inmates all the time.
Yep.
Says the only time he's ever been denied entry was to come see me.
Wow. Walt lives right down the road, actually, in West Palm. But yeah, so that's crazy.
Isn't that crazy? And so I'm there 33 months, finally, with some help from my case manager, because she said it was all bullshit. Someone was trying to punish me. It was in my jacket or something. She got me to go to the camp. I walked to Miami camp, FPC Miami. I was there for 36 months.
Okay.
I finished RDAP, and then I was released because of the whole COVID thing. What happened, March of 20, COVID hit.
Right.
And they started letting people go. I still had a lot of time left, so they didn't want to let me go. They said I didn't qualify, and I hadn't done yet even 50% of my sentence.
Okay.
Remember the different rules they kept?
They kept changing the rules.
Kept changing, kept moving.
I was there from the beginning, too. Every week it was something new.
So my lawyers went into federal court, and they said, you know what, we're not going to fight. Just let him out. So they let me out in June of 20, and then they brought me back in February of 21, stating that I had more than 3 years left on my sentence, so they couldn't supervise me appropriately.
Wow.
So they brought me back in, and then find out, not just me, a bunch of people.
Right.
And some woman actually sued and won, but it took 2 years that they brought me back. They brought us back wrongfully. There's no due process.
Right.
They just decided one day that they wanted us. So they brought me back. They did a little diesel therapy on my ass.
See, when I went back on my violation, I had a little diesel therapy too. I got sentenced on revocation in August, and I didn't land till December.
Oh my God, bro! They took me. I was in four or five county jails in 8 days.
Shit.
They just kept moving me around, and they were laughing about it.
Of course they did.
The marshals would laugh, and I would be cursing them out, and they would put me in. They dropped me off at a jail, and they'd leave me chained up, waist chained.
Yeah, same with me.
Black boxed, and they would leave me there for hours, just sitting for hours. No food, no water, like no medicine. And I'm an older guy. I mean, So eventually, I landed in the building in Miami, FDC Miami.
Right, downtown.
I am there for 19 months. I end up getting designated to the floor there, where, they put me there for a year. And then I kept saying to my case manager, I don't understand why I'm here. And she says, I don't understand why you're here either. You qualified to be home.
Right.
And she kept filing the papers. They kept on saying they're sending me home, and then nothing. Something would kill it in Washington. Now I find out the day was actually the end of my sentence, and thanks to Walter, that my case manager filed a whistleblower lawsuit against the BOP, FDC Miami, the warden, the assistant warden, and her boss who ran the case managers.
The CMC.
She filed it. My case was cited, and now 3 dozen other cases have joined.
Wow. So they held you guys back because of the whistleblower.
They knew I was there, and I was supposed to leave, but they were punishing me.
That is
For whatever
such
the reason,
bullshit.
somebody put a word in.
So they were punishing the case manager, not you.
Well, they punished her too. They ended up moving her out of the regular caseload and moved it to a separate floor. And she was now not allowed to even come see the inmates. And she
God.
revealed all this on NPR radio while I was in the building.
Nice. So then this was at Miami.
FDC, yeah. And then they said that they were going to release me, and I thought I was going home. And they, at midnight, guy knocks on my door, says, "Mandell, pack it up, you're leaving." I said, "Great, I'm going home." Right? And then they bring me down to R&D, and they said to me, "We got to chain you up." I said, "I'm going home." They said, "Nope." So they sent me to Coleman Camp, which was nice.
Right. How long were you at Coleman Camp for?
About five. I get to Coleman Camp. I'm there not even 24 hours to get called into the case manager or the unit manager's office, and she says, "Mandell, what the fuck are you doing here?"
And you were like, I don't know. What
I
you
said,
tell me?
"That's a great question." She says, "All your release papers have been finalized. They're almost sitting on my computer. Why are you here?" I said, "Ma'am, they came into my cell at midnight, told me to pack up, and I'm leaving. And they brought me to R&D, no one told me anything, and wouldn't answer a question. And they chained me up and put me on a bus to come here. I don't know of any reason. I don't know why I'm here. I don't know what's going on. And it took them 5 months for her to get me out."
Oh my God! And that's where you met Nelson.
Yes. Allegedly.
Allegedly. So all of this allegedly. Let's talk about why they put you in prison in the first place.
I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding.
That's what it reads like on Wikipedia and the thousands of entries about you on Google.
Yeah.
So you were running a big investment firm.
So I'm a stockbroker by trade and training.
Okay.
Started at Wall Street in 1983 at E.F. Hutton's training program. By 2000, I was a very seasoned Wall Street entrepreneur, CEO. I had already built a brokerage firm, trading firm, fund, and sold it. It had a second exit from the business.
You almost have this Gordon Gekko cadence about the way you speak too.
Well, the Sunday Observer in London said they did it when I was going public there with Sky Capital. They said Gordon Gekko style investment banking is coming to London.
Oh wow!
In
I hit that
face
shit
of
right on the
Ross
head.
Mandell, and it says Gordon Gekko like that, and my big picture in the biggest selling Sunday newspaper in London, in the most important business section.
So.
And so I built this firm, and so as you know, a stock brokerage firm in America is heavily regulated.
Of course it is.
Okay, so I ended up taking the first regulated American business public in the London Stock Exchange.
And what year was this?
This was June 15th of 2002.
This is a more common occurrence now, obviously.
I created the footprint.
Right, you did.
It was deemed impossible because you're being regulated in America, but how could you be going public in London? Now, all of a sudden, I'm being, people perceived it as me trying to avoid regulation by going over there to go public there. But the truth is, the second I went public there, I was now regulated by everybody.
By everybody, but they're in
every
here.
FSA, the European Union, because of GAAP accounting, they were auditing me for my financials because they went to a European GAAP accounting, comes out of Brussels.
But people that work in money, they know that it's harder over there than over here.
Different.
Okay.
It's very different. I would say I'm probably the foremost expert on that. And the funny thing is, so I was released, my sentence was up January of 24.
Okay.
A few months afterwards, I get contacted by my point person at the London Stock Exchange, who helped me take about 10 companies public there. Took myself public there the second time. then my investment bank, my brokerage business, we had like 4,000 people working. We floated about, they told me, 10 other deals on the AIM Stock Exchange in London. We did deals at Frankfurt, et cetera. And so I was really very well versed in all this. And I get this call, and they invited me to come back to the London Stock Exchange. They're giving me open entree. They said, we've looked at your case 100 times, and we can't see what you actually did wrong. You didn't leave an unpaid invoice. You didn't leave an unpaid check, an unpaid bill. You did everything in compliance with our laws, rules, and regulations. And in fact, at my trial, which was in 2011, the London Stock Exchange sent their head of compliance to my trial to testify on behalf of the government.
Okay.
But under cross-examination, she says, as far as the stock exchange goes, I did nothing wrong. But a couple of prosecutors in Lower Manhattan claimed that I manipulated the whole London Stock Exchange while I was in London, under UK law, with no Americans involved. That's how fugazi my case is.
Is that why you're in prison? Because you manipulated the London Stock?
I manipulated the London Stock Exchange. Now, I will say this to you and to your audience. I did manipulate the London Stock Exchange, and I did it quite well. And that was my job. That's
Right.
what I was supposed to do under UK and British law. And I was compliant because we owned a big stock brokerage firm there, an investment bank. In fact, I had a full banking license. And not even just in England, but in the entire EU, which at that time encompassed about 34 different countries. I was able to open up on a notification basis only, not an application basis.
So how do you go from successful broker, multinational broker to, like, did you have a disgruntled investor lose money who, tried to punish you? I mean, how did this even turn criminal?
Well, we really didn't have excessive complaints or anything to that effect. We had been heavily scrutinized by the FSA, which is the authorities in London.
Okay.
And of course by the SEC, FINRA, you name it. I'm being regulated, audited on a regular basis by every agency you could think of, both in America and in Europe. But what comes back to me much later, in fact, not too long ago, the talk is that because of this footprint that I created, showing regulated American companies how they could go public overseas, then start complying with U.S. reporting law, and then swing your stock back into America and become a fully registered trading company in the United States for a fraction of the cost. Several very big shot attorneys that I came in contact with acknowledged that they had been told, it was common knowledge in the courthouse, the Southern District of New York, where, funny enough, P. Diddy is on trial right this second, my courthouse, that they claimed that I cost Lower Manhattan, the banks in Lower Manhattan, $100 billion in fees and trading profits.
Oh, my God.
Because companies, think about it, after I went public there the second time, 100, 200 companies followed my footprint, including, like, let's say KKR, Kohlberg, Kravis, and Roberts.
Right.
They're managing $1 trillion. They went public over there for nothing, literally nothing. Swing the company around to America, nothing. I mean, you're talking about pennies, okay? Imagine what it would have cost KKR to go public in a straight IPO in America. How much money the banks would have made, buying, selling. They all the games that they play, moving the stock around, et cetera, all the hot stock rules. There's things that the public does not know. I know you're a pretty smart guy, but there are things that you do not know. Right. If you've never sat on a trading desk and under hot stock rules and done offerings, et cetera, traded aftermarket, et cetera. In the name of creating a fair and orderly and efficient market, they suspend rules when it comes to underwriting. You govern by what they call hot stock rules. And unless you've been there, you really don't fully appreciate what I'm talking about. But, I was a disruptor.
Who spearheaded the effort to take Ross Mandell down?
Nobody knows, but basically, from what I understand, somebody put a hit on me. So this is what happened to me. All of a sudden, starting in 2005, things don't feel right to me. And all of a sudden, one regulator after the next, after the next, after the next start coming at Sky Capital, including the IRS, et cetera. And we comply with everything. We have hearings and we write checks and, we come to agreements and, we go to court. Everything is the way it should be, but there's just a feeling like what's going on. Every single week, we get one regular leaves and then another regular walks in.
That's crazy.
And the level of scrutiny and intensity becomes greater. We deal with it. The IRS comes after me. I work out with the deal with them. They say, oh, this, I that. We have a hearing. I win. I write a check for 900 plus grand. Everything's fine, right?
Right.
I could see this just like it seems to be like. Then all of a sudden, we get some buyout. Some big banks start reaching out to me through people. They're interested in potentially acquiring, merging with Sky Capital. I'm talking about a big bank in Iceland. I'm talking about Barclays Bank.
Wow.
In the UK. And eventually we get all our stuff together and we order it ourselves. We make a presentation. Barclays exciting. And I go and meet Mr. Diamond, who at the time was, Bob Diamond was one of the most, he was a CEO that was receiving accolades on CNBC almost every week. He was in the Wall Street Journal. And he's an international figure of what seems to go right in banking. And we meet in the lobby of the Dorchester Hotel. Gave them all they had all our due diligence. That's how I know we had 10,000 millionaires as clients. We managed $9 billion, this and that. Mr. Diamond made me a soft offer of $300 million. And I would be part of Barclays.
Wow.
And I'd have to, sign a deal, be there 3 years, non-competes, all these kind of things. And I was confused because my company at that time had 200 million cash in it. We had no debt, zero. And we're really special. We have a special little firm, and I had a big plan. I was moving into China and everything else, into the East, throughout Europe. And I had 150 million personally. And I said, Mr. Diamond, I don't understand what you're offering me. I have this. Company has 200 million. It's my company. I'm the biggest shareholder. I'm the controlling stockholder. I'm the founder. I'm the CEO. I have the voting stock. It's my board. I'm the only one who can write a check. And I have what I have. And he says to me, yeah, but I'm offering you the chance to walk away. And he said it to me like that. And I was very arrogant. I was a little bit off-put. Walk away from what, bro? I have a United States Senator on my board, a member of Congress, city member of Parliament, a parliamentary appointee. What? You're letting me do what? I didn't get it. I look back now, and he was giving me a heads up, like this is
You're about to go down.
This is your last chance. Otherwise. So what they do is, and you saw this in the presidential election. If they can't sue you and break you and crush you. They will use the Department of Justice. They weaponize it, and they use that to take over companies and to destroy businesses and things of that nature. Damn. And it's so horrible. One prosecutor started this whole investigation. Usually, there's a crime or the hint of a crime, and then they investigate. They came at my, it became revealed only because I went to trial. Only because I went to trial. That for 9 months they were trying to convert some of the guys that worked for me, get them to commit a crime.
Oh my God!
And that's what happened. And then they never got anything on me. But at my sentencing, the judge said if I didn't know, because they did find out eventually that 4 guys were cheating customers. Okay. And they caught these guys red-handed.
Did they go to prison too?
They did not go to prison, not even one day. They all told the story that eventually it was me.
That was you.
Now, the guy that really was in business with them, my COO, he pled guilty and said, I accept responsibility. Mandell didn't know anything. If he did, he would have thrown us all on the street. And that's on an audio videotape that the FBI had. But still, they still came at me. They wanted a name. They wanted somebody meaningful. Just like when they came, my lawyer said to me, you'd be willing to give up a senator or a member of Congress. I said, what does that mean, give up?
Right.
Ruin somebody's life just because
you're going in trouble?
It makes some prosecutor look good? And so I think that when I was telling my story, 15 years ago, people were like, yeah, well, there's smoke, there's fire, sour grapes, you probably did something. But after they saw what happened to former President Trump, 77-year-old billionaire, former United States president, never had a criminal history, a criminal record, nothing. All of a sudden gets charged with 92 felonies. He's been convicted of 32 felonies.
Right.
I mean, do you really believe that he went out and committed these things?
No, of course
not. So what happened? They weaponized the justice system. And that's exactly what happened to me. And by the way, not just me. I've now come to understand they've been doing this now on a quite regular basis. If you're unfortunate enough to have been a disruptor or stepped on somebody's toes, they pay some politician who goes to the DOJ and says, "Do me a favor, I want you to look at this guy." It's horrible.
It is horrible. It is.
Corrupt. Our government is just entirely corrupt, and I think now hopefully they're cleaning it out a little bit. But I just want you, I'm just telling you my understanding of everything.
So, you were out on pretrial, right? They weren't holding you in
For
detention.
years, I was on $5 million bail, and I'll tell you what happened, how sketchy my whole thing was. All the newspapers said I was going to be released, that there was no evidence, et cetera, and so forth. They were trying to apply the United States securities laws extraterritorially. Meaning, when I was in England,
right.
I complied with the English laws.
But you don't have to comply with the U.S. laws
Well,
while you're in England.
The Southern District of North said yes, that they're the policeman. The United States is the policeman of the world. They violated our laws. So my lawyer made, I thought, the best point of all. Why don't you take away his driver's license, Your Honor? Because when I was in London, I drove on the wrong side of the street, according to the American law. You understand?
Yeah.
So that's how crazy. So the stock exchange in London has invited me back to introduce business, to go public, all these different things. They called me, spoke to me. I said, would you mind putting that in writing? I figured, I'm a nervous wreck these days. You get a little paranoid.
Looking over your shoulder, everything.
Like my lawyer says to me, when they're really out to get you, it's not paranoid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When they're really out to get you, it's... So, but that's it in a nutshell. Nobody, American Greed did an episode on me, right? I'm the finale of season 9. It's called The Sky's the Limit.
I'll have to check that one out.
Biggest case, they say, of 2011, 2012. The finale. And if you watch it, you'll come away and say, I have no idea what this guy did wrong. Where's the crime? Every other American Greed, they
You pretty much understand.
You pretty
what
much
the
know
crime
exactly
was.
what. With me, you have no idea what did he do wrong. You can't figure it out.
So the narrative on the internet is that you defrauded unintelligent investors who didn't understand what they were doing, but that's not the case at all.
I only dealt with super high net
course.
worth individuals and all that kind of stuff. Now look, let's be candid. My companies went public.
Right.
At my victims, at my sentencing, some old man and some old woman bought 100 shares of my stock in some remote part of England I'd never heard of, people I'd never met and never heard of. And they lost money because when the feds came in, they suspended my stock from trading, right? And then the feds would never allow it to reopen. And even though nothing happened, there was no crime. They would just execute a search warrant. So things of that nature. I got one lawsuit. Some customer of one of my, a broker that worked at my firm, at this firm. Now, I'm the CEO of the parent. I wasn't even running the firm.
Right.
I was even prohibited from running the firm. I had people that, licensed guys. There was 7 layers between me and them. So this guy files a lawsuit, and it's a customer arbitration, and he does it while the criminal case is going. And all these civil actions are supposed to be stayed pending the result in the criminal court.
Of course they are.
Because of the different laws. And even the SEC stayed their action. But this one case, this customer arbitration, they refused to stay it. They insisted that it could be allowed to go forward. So I wasn't even allowed to participate. In his filings, the customer says he's never met me. He's never spoken to me. He's never done a business dealing with me. He's never done a trade with me. But he was advised to put my name down because I'm a deep pocket and maybe that he can get something for me. And now I'm not allowed to even defend myself. I wasn't allowed to attend the arbitration because in a criminal
Investigate or criminal
well, in a criminal
trial.
process,
Right.
and you know the laws are different and they stay everything. So my whole thing is so sketchy. So after I'm convicted on 4 counts, and I'm sentenced to 12 years in prison.
How did a jury even understand?
They didn't, and they admitted they didn't know anything. It's just that my attorney was also had a big conflict of interest. That's a whole other story that came out later. He was secretly representing his partner in my case, and working with the government against me. Just it's a crazy story.
Was that later revealed? Or did you have any
It was later revealed. I filed motions,
appeal,
all these different things.
2255s, anything?
But denied. My judge is denying everything. He was involved. My judge knew the whole thing. But to make a long story short, the judge orders me to prison from sentencing. Gave me 45 days to get my affairs in order.
Okay, so
we asked
you
for
didn't-
bail
you didn't get
pending
remanded.
appeal. He denied me.
Okay.
And then the day before I was supposed to go in, the appellate court said, not so fast. We're going to grant Mr. Mandell's permanent stay until he's exhausted all his appeals, because this is what you call a case of first impression. They were trying a new law because there were no Americans involved.
Right.
So where was the issue? And they still never found any. But, they just keep denying you. Even when my Supreme Court, when we filed for certiorari, the Solicitor General of the United States writes to the Supreme Court, we understand that Mr. Mandel was convicted by the district court with the wrong definition of harmless error, and that the appellate court also got it wrong, citing the wrong case of harmless error. But we urge the court not to jump into the fray and to allow the circuits to police themselves, whatever the fuck that means.
Right.
And so they denied my certiorari, and then the circuits just did nothing.
Oh my God, that's crazy.
And Solicitor General, they respond in every 1 out of 10,000 cases, and he writes this big thing saying that the district court got it wrong. They acknowledge, and the appellate court got it wrong. But the Supreme Court should stay out of the fray. F-R-A-Y. I'll never forget that word as long as I live.
Of course, I wouldn't forget it either. So let's talk about. So then you end up going to prison.
Correct.
Did you have any problems with bias because you're a white collar guy in prison, coming from the staff?
So there was a lot of that kind of thing in Miami.
Of course.
It was black and Latino, 50-50, but by the time I left, it was all Latino. Gangs and the whole thing. I was very fortunate because when I came to prison, as you know, a large number of inmates have cell phones.
Of course. I mean, we were talking about your federal prison tips. We do TikTok lives 3 times a week. There's 800 cell phones in the room.
It's crazy, right?
Yeah.
And so when I came in, a lot of people were familiar with who I was.
Right.
I was a big name. I was on television. I was in Forbes, umpteen
I've
times,
had that
Wall Street
problem,
Journal,
too.
all these things. So a lot of people came to me and wanted
Stock advice.
they wanted to learn about the stock market business, and I taught courses. I taught ACE classes, and I tutored people and helped a lot of guys, and I became sort of very popular almost. It was like somebody that people would seek out when there would be an issue with staff. They would ask me to speak.
Right. No, I was the same
Yeah.
way. All the way up. There's 2 documentaries about me, one on HBO, one on Hulu.
Wow.
HBO was out while I was in prison, so my reputation superseded me anytime that I moved on a shot. And, I tell a story, maybe it was even on Nelson's podcast, that when I made my way from the camp in Montgomery to Forest City, I hadn't even settled in the cube. And people are bringing me their paperwork. Hey, can you look at this?
So
Can you look at this case real quick? I'm like, dude, I need to put sheets on the bed, dude. But yeah,
I actually had guys making my bed for me and everything.
right.
They wanted it. It was very nice. And they would line up outside my cell for advice and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, that's what happens to some of the big white collar guys. So what do you do now?
So I am an educator and an influencer. And one of the things when I was in prison, we all, you have plenty of time. I like to read. And a lot of guys are asking me to teach them. So I started teaching a little group in the unit, in the TV area, right? It started me and 3 guys, and then became 6 guys, then 12 guys. And at one point, there was 17, 18 guys, including some of the officers would sit in and take notes. You know how to form corporations and the appropriate jurisdictions and the type of legal entity, onshore or offshore, these kind of things. The benefits of LLC versus LLP versus C Corp versus S Corp, et cetera. Put it in a trust, outside a trust, what kind of trust, a living trust, all the different manifestations of business and securities that I've been doing for 35 years. And all of a sudden, a bunch of SIS guys walk in. We have this group of like almost 20 people. And they said, Mandell, what are you doing? I said, I'm teaching. He said, we could charge you with inciting a riot.
Yeah, I know that game.
I mean, you have like 20 people sitting there taking notes, including an officer. And they said, we know you're new here and know you don't know everything, but if you want to do this, you got to do it in psychology or in education. And so literally the next day I was called to psychology, to education, this and that. And then I agreed to teach courses they wanted me to teach. They had their own little agenda.
Right.
And then teaching what I wanted to teach, and I had to get approved all the way up to Washington, and got things approved. They got ACE credit and all that kind of thing. So while I was there, I really wrote a tremendous curriculum, and everybody would say, bro, if you would just teach us when you get out on the internet, you make millions. So I wrote a curriculum called the Wealth Formula, and I sought out the number one guy in online education, which is Brad Lee, LEA, Lightspeed VT in Nevada, Henderson, Nevada, right outside of Vegas. And I decided to become an educator and what you would call an influencer today. So I have a podcast. I have a mastermind class. I coach people. I coach young men that are looking for. Everybody's looking for different things. Some guys are looking for stock market advice. Some people are looking for life advice. Some people are looking for, everybody has their own personal. I'm gifted that I'm very familiar with some very, I've had a full life. I was a drug addict, an alcoholic when I was younger. I got sober. I got clean. I spent a lot of years as a completely stone cold sober guy in the 12-step programs, et cetera. And I've been able to really affect the trajectory of a lot of the lives of a lot of young men. Now, I'm 68, so everybody's young to me now.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, I got a guy 63,
so he's young.
56. To me, they're young men.
Right.
But, there are certain areas that I consider myself, I'm a stone cold expert in. And part of that is life. I've lived a fast life. I was a big earner from the get-go. Growing up in the Wall Street type crowd, all I did really is manage money, handle money, advise money from all over the world. I was very good at it, and to this day.
Nice.
So, I find myself counseling men and women now. I'm counseling some women, which I love. And I'm about to do something really spectacular, but I can't really reveal it here today. But you're going to be seeing me in the next 12 months doing something like when I took my company public, a regulated American stockbroker, I took it public on the London Stock Exchange. That was a big deal. I was on national TV in America, CNBC, CNN, Fox News, BBC, everywhere in the UK, all the newspapers, front page Wall Street Journal, all these different things, Forbes. But what I'm going to do in the next 12 months makes that look like it was tiddlywinks.
That's phenomenal.
We're
Can't
going
wait
to
to
do
see
something
it.
in industry now that's never been done. That's going to be something really, really spectacular, and it's ongoing.
Can't wait to see it. Where can people find out about your company, your course, how to be mentored by you, learn more about life and money?
Thank you for asking. I really appreciate you. It's rossmandell.com.
Okay.
It's Ross is 2 S's, Mandel, MANDE, 2 L's.com. I've got a website. I'm affiliated with Raw Media.
Okay.
Raw Media is a media platform that I'm building, and the website is in development. It'll be ready in about 2 weeks, but there's a holding page. You can go to rawmediaofficial.com.
Okay.
I'm on every social media platform. We post every single day, from LinkedIn to TikTok to Threads.
You use Threads? Oh my
I
goodness!
actually like Threads.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's weird, right? Instagram, Facebook. I have a
A
friends page.
68-year-old man uses Threads. That's great.
Can you imagine? And how about Lemonade on
I do.
TikTok?
I use Lemonade, and then when they did the TikTok. So I mean, briefly, my quick story is, I have a master's. I have my L2. When I got out of prison this time, I didn't want to touch prison consulting or legal work with a 10-foot pole because I got in trouble in 22. So I applied to 367 jobs. I didn't land one of them.
You?
Out of 367, I was too qualified for the little bullshit jobs. My fraudulent felony kept me from the other jobs. Wow. So I posted a TikTok on April 25th that went what they call micro viral. It got 10,000 views, and now 30 million views later, we're pacing for 2 million in revenue. So.
And that's in prison consulting?
Federalprisontips.com. We do
It's
federalprisontips.com.
And your full name is?
Kyle Sandler, like Adam. And I'm a little Hawaiian gay Jewish kid.
I'm very proud of you, bro.
Thank you, man.
Beautiful thing what you've accomplished.
Thank
And
you.
you're helping people.
Yeah, we've helped. We've gotten 287 people relief, and we have 600 clients and 230 motions in court right now. But I've also, the rawest part of it is that we now have 7 full-time employees, 7.5 because Nelson does some work for us on the side, and every single one of them has been to federal prison.
Listen, I spent my whole life, I was trained as a taker, as a money getter.
Right.
And I became really good at it. I just kept climbing the ranks. When you go to Wall Street, they don't teach you, you think they teach you about, the market, stocks, bonds, all that. That's ancillary. They teach you how to trade, how to sell, how to structure, things that serve them. They saw me, they said, listen, this guy's a sales guy. Put me on the phone, broker, everything else, trading, I've developed over the time. And I became a really excellent taker, a money getter. You give me a phone, and I can accomplish crazy things. And I became very, very good at it. And when I was inside, I was helping people. And when I was getting sober in AA, the 12-step programs, I was doing service. The 12th step is all about giving back and doing service. And when I was inside helping some of these poor guys, I had like a white light moment. And I decided that it's time for me to start serving and giving back. I've lived a very selfish life.
I had to.
And it's time now for me to help people and to give back. So when I meet a guy like yourself and I hear that story, God got you denied 367 job opportunities because there's hundreds of fucking poor inmates that need your fucking help, bro.
And we're doing it.
And most of these federal prison guys, they're all full of shit. They just really want to separate you from your money.
And that's the thing.
I know guys that do it.
I do too. Great. I know everybody in the industry. Some of them are decent. Most of them are not. When you go on the prison consulting side, when you go to federalprisontips.com, I've done something unheard of in this industry. You go to our services page, it's what you see is what you get is the service and the price. So a lot of prison consultants will see the case, they'll see the inmate, they'll see their pocket, like in Wall Street, they find a whale and they'll take the whale for all the money that they can get. So, and somebody will ask me, well, such and such company charges $5,000, why do you only charge $1,200? And so I know some of those guys that do the $5,000 jobs, right? And they'll starve for a month. But we're going to do $2 million. I've only been out of prison for a year. We're going to do $2 million this year. And, and that's by helping a hell of a lot more people.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you very much.
You must be good because the word gets around. Eventually, you can't fool everybody forever.
So the funny story is, and a lot of these guys come in and out of the podcast because it's right here. So the building that we're in is in Dania Beach, which is on the south side of the airport. And I live upstairs in a condo, and I was looking for space to do my office and the podcast. So there's a bank building across the street, and that's what I was looking at because there's nothing in the bank building. But I went down to the manager of the the condo building, and he's like, there's offices on the third floor. I didn't know, so I found this office. And I take this one office, and I start working here on a Monday, and I get going because of prison. I get going early. I'm down here working at 6. So me and my dog are down here working on my very first day, and the guy in the other office comes in. He runs a credit repair business, and he looks up at me like 3 or 4 times. He's like, "You're the federal prison guy."
That's so funny, bro.
And I'm like, "Yeah, I am." At the same time, and that's Waldo, who you guys were in prison with at Coleman. At the same time, there's another guy named Eddie that they call Batman at Coleman, and he lives in Miami. And somebody had sent him a video of mine and said, "Do you know anything about this prison consultant?" And Eddie's like, "Well, I don't know this guy, but let me look him up." And Waldo and Eddie are friends, and Waldo and Eddie are talking about it. He's like, "No, that guy's right here in my office."
So crazy, bro.
Meanwhile,
what
about
are
a
the
month
odds?
before that, I had found Nelson on TikTok because his Honor Among Thieves videos were geolocated to Miami. I'm like, "Dude, you're in Miami. I'm in freaking Fort Lauderdale. Why are we not doing something?" So I go do his show, and Waldo calls him too. He's like, "Nelson, the federal prison guy, like he works in my building." So I rented the rest of the office suite. Now it's just, where all the felons hang out.
We're going to keep that under wraps a little, I think.
Right, exactly.
I mean,
But no, it was great meeting you, man. I think some of our goals are very aligned in both media and helping people that may have gotten a raw deal. You definitely got a raw deal. I mean,
it's not even an issue.
There are so many. You've experienced this too. Everybody says they're not supposed to have been in federal prison, and every now and then I meet somebody that probably should not have been to federal prison. You definitely fit that bill.
Yeah, it's rare. But, the feds now say that like roughly 10% of the people in federal prison are probably don't belong there. That's an acceptable number
It is.
today. And, when the judiciary system in the United States was built by our founding fathers, it was built on one principle. People don't understand this. And that principle was rather 100 guilty men go free than one innocent person be incarcerated. Because remember, we were under the monarchy of King George. And these founding fathers, they were just locking guys up, trumping up charges, bullshit, no rights, no this and that, so they could steal their business, steal their women, steal their cattle, whatever it was. And just like what happens today with weaponization of government and law.
That's facts.
And so, I feel like I'm interested in helping people and giving back, not necessarily just people that, I met from prison, this and that, but there's so many people out there floundering, struggling, being taken advantage of, being misled. I mean, because of my age, because of my history with drugs and alcohol, my history with prison, and of course my lifetime involvement with Wall Street and all things capital markets, I bring a tremendous amount of like a broad spectrum of service,
Right.
So when a guy says to me, "What you meant to me," I'm like, the first thing in my head, I'm thinking, I wonder what he's looking
On
for.
what?
Guy calls me yesterday. It was 7:30 in the morning. He says, "I want you to mentor me in the stock market." Okay, it's a guy that I knew he had a big family business. I know his family sold the business. He probably got a nice chunk of change. But from what I'm gathering, whoever's been advising him is doing a pretty lousy job. So another kid that I met because I'm trying to be helpful, I gave him some advice. He showed me a little bit of his portfolio, and he made $18,000 in the last 10 days.
Nice.
And I just tweaked a few little things. And so he's telling people. So now it's like, there's...
Well, that's how it works.
And that's how it works with you. I mean, you help people, federal prison tips, $1,200 is your standard charge? Is that how?
No, it depends.
Depends on what you have to do,
That's
right?
the average charge. We have a bunch of, we do post-conviction work, so we help write pro se motions, and then we do the pre-prison side,
The whole thing
advising
from the
people
beginning,
of
right.
what to do from the beginning. And also, I'm probably one of the best people in the world at FSA planning, so that they can, maximize benefit and get out as quick as humanly possible.
Right, beautiful. System is in such disarray right now.
It is. I mean, the BOP's got nine positions at the top that aren't filled. It's in shambles at the moment.
I mean, I can't even imagine. You're in touch with guys that are inside and all that, right?
Every day.
I can't even imagine.
Well, it was really nice spending some time with you. I'm sure like we're gonna cross paths again because we borrow the same guy to do podcasting.
It's my pleasure, really. I had no expectation today.
Thanks, Ross.
And I'm very impressed with you. I want you to be a special guy. And
Thank you very
Federal
much.
Prison Tips, everybody.
And rossmandell.com. That's 2 S's and 2 L's.
Correct. Look me up. Hit me up. Instagram. DM me. Let's go.
And we're 10 toes in and we're standing on business.